Hey, this is Debbie Adar, and welcome to Debbie Adar TV. My message to the world is that each and every one of us is special, and no matter what we want to accomplish in our lives, if we put our minds and action to it, it is possible. And for that reason, I like to get into the minds of coaches and speakers and people who are going somewhere in life, people who are making a difference in their own special way. Those who have blazed a trail for us so that we can learn from them and not have to reinvent the wheel. And today, I happen to be speaking to one of the youngest members of that club. I love young people who are on a mission. They're full of energy and life, and you can see a gleam in their eyes. The person I'm talking to today is Justin Renner, and he's definitely one of those guys. I first met Justin at one of the Les Brown weekend retreats that we were both attending in Orlando. I was immediately impressed by him. I heard him speak impromptu, as we have to do at Les's events, and I knew that I had to get to know him better. I had to find out what made him tick. What makes him have all these dreams and goals when a lot of people his age are out causing trouble and doing drugs and learning how to live off society? He's an author. He has a video series. He's spoken all over the U.S. and has shared this stage with Bob Proctor and James Malinchak and many others. He's won awards for his improv and impersonation and comedies. He's been in talent shows. He's been on film and TV. And he was in the National Honor Society. I'm tired just telling you all that. So you can see why I wanted to get inside Justin's head and see what makes him tick. Okay, let's don't wait any longer. Let's go get started. Let's give him a call. Okay, so here's Justin, the one that I've been telling you about. So welcome, Justin. Thank you so much for doing the show.
I'm super honored to be here. Thank you for reaching out to me.
Thank you. Thank you. So we want to get right into it. We want to know what makes you tick. We want to know what makes you different. You have set a standard for yourself, and a lot of young people seem to be lost. So how old are you, by the way?
I'm 19 years old.
So you're 19. I mean, you're a teenager. Quite honestly, teenagers have a bad rap now. When did you start on this mission of greatness?
Let's just say even though I am young, I've had a little bit of a testimony in a sense. When I was as a young little boy, like 5, 6, 7, all the way to my early teens, I was not the brightest kid in the sense of I got kicked out of preschool. I was a bad, really bad kid. I had a lot of anger issues and just a lot of rebellion. And I don't know if it was that I wanted to just be something else, or I just had so much in me that I just got frustrated. I can't understand it. But as I got older and my parents continually began to speak into me, and that's what I would have to say I give most credit to would be my parents, because they're the ones who set the standard for me. They're the ones who kept me out of trouble. They're the ones who spoke into my life. They're the ones who sought out opportunities for me. And without those elements, I probably would have no idea what I wanted to do at a young age, nor would I have the opportunities that I have had at only 16 is when I started getting these speaking opportunities. And if it wasn't for them seeking them out and pushing me a little bit, let me spread my wings, never would have happened.
I guess everybody needs some sort of mentor in their life. It might not be their parents, but somebody that can push you and lead you to where you need to be.
That's correct, yeah.
I've been stalking you online.
Okay.
And I've noticed that you really like to make people laugh and feel good. You like the family clown. And
I started off, like I said, not very bright, not very happy, very sad. As a young age, and my parents were wondering, why are you, so sad all the time? And what broke me out of my shell, so to speak, would be that I started doing impersonation. And after that, 2 hours of improvising, I was like, wow, there's something here. There's something to, my ability to, improvise and impersonate. And I couldn't get everybody, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And so as time went on, after I got cut from the basketball team, probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because my whole identity was wrapped in that, and I took the game so seriously. Once I got cut, I was free. And I started having fun at the pizza shop that I worked at. I would do impersonations of presidents on the phone. I mean, I had a blast, and so I started breaking out of my shell. And I really feel that laughter is something that we all have in common. If you go to like a preschool, like my little sister you saw, at her preschool, all the little kids are laughing, having a good time. They're so free, it's so pure. And I was thinking about what happened between my little sister's age to the adulthood. Why did we lose that? You know, you didn't have to teach my sister to laugh. You didn't have to teach a dog how to bark. It's something that we're supposed to do. And as life beats us down, it kind of takes that away. And that started bothering me as I was going through high school. And so I wanted to be that person that can be a class clown, even, you know, just to brighten the mood, you know. So
well, that's very insightful. So what are you currently working on now?
Currently, I'm working on a book, and it's about a year in the making, and it's directed towards teenagers and young adults. Obviously, because I don't really have all the advice I can give to, like, you know, parents or people in the business world, because I have yet to really experience it. So I can only mentor and lead where I've been, so to speak. So as I've gone through middle school and high school, I've picked up a lot of things, and I've watched a lot of people change and go through peer pressures and all these different problems, and I noticed how it really changed them, and how the wrong voices that they heard created wrong choices for their life. And so I've decided to compile them into a book, and it's about a 40-chapter book that I'm working on, and it starts off with a question that makes you really think. And whether it has to do with, you know, involving dating, or involved with purpose or identity or confidence. And it's just a question that makes you really think. Like, one of them's like, why am I here? And it's just like, it's called, the title's Book with a Hook. And if you want to know the hook, it's in the book. And every chapter is a hook. And it makes you think. And you're like, all right, well, then I'm going to dig in. And it's just me. It's a story, whether I've lived it myself or it's something that one of my favorite mentors or speakers, like Les Brown, or people that everybody remembers stories. Everybody loves stories. Yeah. And the ones that have impacted me the most, I'll put them in there, and then I'll cap it off with my own, you know, my thoughts and insight on it. So it's in the making. It's about third base, rounding third right now.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. That should be very interesting and very needed too.
Thank you very much.
Who are some of the mentors that you've had in your very short life?
Yeah, I know. Well, I would have to say my parents were not my mentors, so to speak, because my dad or mom could say something and I'll blow it off, but my grandpa can say the same words and it brings something in me, and it just has to do with the whole parent-child thing. I hear you too much. I don't want to listen to, you know, like, it just doesn't work. And so my dad ended up hiring a confidence coach for me, because that was something I was really, really lacking, whether it was on the basketball court or whether it was when I was going to have my first speaking engagement. It was confidence. It was the lack of worth. It's like, I'm not worthy to be on these stages with these business people, these multimillionaires. Why am I here? And so my dad I was so grateful that he wasn't trying to teach me how to be confident, because I wouldn't have listened to him. So he hired one for me, and I had about 3 months of training with him over the phone. And he really dug into me. And at the same time, I started listening to motivational speakers. Primarily, number one would be Les Brown. And Les Brown really, I mean, I'd be driving down the road listening to him, and just whether I'm at the gym and I'm listening to him, I started craving that sense of worth, and like, I have greatness within me. And so I began sharing with my friends, and they all started loving it, and they started feeling powerful. And so the mentor would have to be, and I'll name him, no one really knows him, but his name is Brian Kenny. He mentors me all the time.
I do the same thing. I actually started out with Tony Robbins, and when I first saw you at the Les Brown thing, I poked my husband and I said, he looks like a young Tony Robbins. And then you got up and you spoke, and I'm like, oh my God, he is a young Tony Robbins.
Thank you. I'll take it. That's a good compliment.
Yeah. What topics do you speak on? And then who is usually your audience?
It all began my sophomore year of high school. I went to a talent competition, and I wanted to be an actor/model. You know, it was right after I got cut from the basketball team, so I was like, all right, I'm going to do this now. And I did a George W. Bush impersonation on one of the nights. And after I did it, it went over really well, and I got an opportunity to do it again for the big, like the finale. And then I did it again, and then did more jokes, and I ended up winning. And after that, now I'm like, oh great, now I got to be a comedian. I was like, man, they don't make much money. And so, I'm thinking that. I'm like, oh, man. And so I ended up putting that video on YouTube. My dad marketed it like a good father should. He'd send it to everybody, and it happened to fall into the email of a gentleman named Eric Swanson, and he owns a seminar company, Universal Seminars, and he was brought up by Brian Tracy. And so he has seminars across the country, and he just liked me. And so he said, can you come on my stages and do the George W. Bush impersonations? And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I got you, man. And so I was like, sure. And I started doing it. And after a while, I was like, you know what? I like doing the George Bush, but I really want to see if I can be myself on stage and not cover myself up with an impression. Because everyone saw me only as an impression. I was like, all right, I want to be who I am as well. I love doing impressions, but let me get to my heart. So my senior year of high school, he finally said, all right, well, you have 20 minutes to speak. Make sure you do your George Bush in the beginning, but then you can take off your cowboy hat and you can talk about what you want to talk about. And what I chose with my parent, my dad and I wrote a speech basically upon there's a dilemma, and I want to be a voice, like a vanguard for my generation, speaking to the parents, to the older generation, because there is a big gap. And I want to be like that bridge to say, this is what's going on, and it's powerful. And the number one reason would be children don't feel that they're being heard or spoken life into by most of their parents. And so they end up listening to the voices of their friends, or they end up listening to the voices of teachers that say, you're not smart enough, you need to get a higher grade, you're just a grade, you're just a GPA. And so when they don't feel like they're valuable or their worth or their gifts are being spoken into, they end up going off and partying, and they end up choosing the wrong friends. And yet we tell them, don't party, don't do drugs, don't hang out with the wrong people, but why not? Oh, it's bad for you. Well, I don't care. I don't really want to do anything. I have no vision. And so my speech was encouragement leads to courage, and my parents who encouraged me and spoke life into me gave me courage to do things at a young age that I normally would not be able to do. And then it was just, my message for that whole year was the importance of getting parents and their kids or teenagers, or even if they're young adults, to go back and reach them. Because no matter what, if a kid grows up and I never felt love from his parents, it'll always burden him, no matter him or her, no matter how long or how old they get. My grandpa still cries about it when he talks about how he never heard his parents never told him I love you, and he still tears up about it. So if I see that as a 7-year-old man, I go, wow, that's big. That's a big deal. It still hurts him. So that was my message. That's the only thing I could think of, and I'm not going to talk to these business people about business because I don't know. So that was just what I've chosen that year.
What do you feel is the greatest challenge that faces young people?
Probably a lack of identity. It's always an identity issue. It's who am I and why am I here kind of thing. And that happens, I've noticed, and I'm not trying to sound like this Mr. Expert who's been researching it. I'm just, from the people that my friends and my colleagues and acquaintances around me, especially going into college, they're either going to college because their parents told them to, or will pave the way, or whatever, or just because it's the right thing to do in their mind, yet they have no idea what they want to do afterwards, and they don't know who they are. And so the biggest challenge is discovering who they really are. And there's so many different ways of people have all these different solutions of doing that, and it's just a result of experiences. But investing in, I think a big one would be investing in yourself, because sometimes I notice that, especially with like teenage girls, they get so caught up in this, like, for example, a band like my little sister who's 14 or 15 get caught up in One Direction, or these boy bands, or guys get caught up in these sports and their favorite sports characters, and I'm a big fan of those too, obviously the sports, but they get so caught up in those celebrities, or they get so caught up in maybe trying to be popular, that they're thinking about pleasing other people and thinking about other people and bands, and spending all their time looking at YouTube videos of their favorite athletes or whatever it may be, that they don't even know who they are anymore. They've spent so much time thinking and trying to be somebody else that they don't know who they are anymore. And the only way you can know who you are is to get actually alone with yourself and have a reality check. And sometimes some people tell me that the hardest thing that they have to face is when they're laying in bed at night and it's silent because they have to hear their own thoughts. And that's really kind of scary to me. I'm like, man, if you can't listen to your own thoughts without being afraid, then you don't know who you are. And, girls will date guys just because they don't know who they are. And guys will go after girls and just because they don't know who they are. And it's all of identity issue. And it's just, we always try to, cut off the what's it called? Symptoms as opposed to getting to the source. The symptoms, whether it's, like I said earlier, drugs or alcohol or partying or bad relationships or wrong choices, but it's all from a root, and it's just not knowing who you are. And I'm still learning that process myself of who I really am, and every day we learn bit by bit, but it's important to start young as opposed to saying I'll figure it out later.
What do you do on a daily basis to keep yourself focused and knowing where you're going?
Well, there's a couple things that I do. I'm at college right now, so I got to do what I got to do, and so I do my work and stuff, even though I don't really feel like it. But I also, out of nowhere, in the last 6 months, I started reading books, and I've never read books. Like in high school, I always used SparkNotes or whatever and got summaries because I never read those books. I didn't want to, but I started grabbing onto these purpose-driven books, and they have filled me with this insight and wisdom that I wouldn't normally have, and it's really got me, I'm really hungry for that, that knowledge, and at a young age, because I know how important it is to have it, so I can then again give it to people that are younger than me who maybe never read a book, or they don't want to at the time, and they might listen to me, they won't read a book, so I might as well fill myself. So that's one thing. And then another thing is, the biggest thing, it would be getting in God's Word every day and seeking Him, because whether anybody believes or not, I'm believing it, but He created me for a purpose, and if I want to find out what my purpose is, I can't look within myself. I have to look who created me, and I can't ask other people. I have to ask who created me. And so every time I get into His Word, He begins to slowly tell me who I really am, and that fills me with that identity. And other people may have their own version of how they figure out their identity, and and I'm totally for it. But just for me, that's the biggest thing for me, to keep myself focused. And then lastly would be obviously listening to motivational speakers on a fairly daily basis. And whether I'm cooking breakfast and I have it on my speakers on my iPhone, just filling myself up with the positive and keeping positive friends near me as opposed to cutting away the negative. That would I'd say keep me focused right there.
That's awesome. That as you progress in your focus, that you've had to eliminate some friends?
Fortunately, I haven't had to really eliminate them as slash them away. These kind of fallen away from me in a sense.
Yes.
And right now, because I graduated from my high school, a lot of my friends have already gone to their universities, and I'm at a community college, so I'm still stuck in my hometown. I was kind of pulled away in a season of isolation from my older friends to gather some new ones and seek out the better ones for me.
It's interesting because as you progress as a person, the people that aren't in line with you actually do just fall away. It's kind of interesting how that happens, and the people that are more aligned with you enter. So yeah. I noticed that too.
I agree. I'm with you on that one.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your dreams? Where are you going?
That's a good question. In the last couple years, I've had so many different options, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's nice to have a lot of opportunity, but then it's also stressful picking the right one. Mm-hmm. And when my dad and I 2 years ago went on a walk, just on a trail, and I was like, why are we going on a walk? We never do this. And so he just took me on a walk, and I don't know what it is, but we went down a trail, and I guess it was like some type of symbolize, I don't know what he was doing, but we went down this trail, and he said, Justin, you have two paths that you can walk. And this is while I was still in high school. He said you can either go down the university route, just right down the system, or you can go down, and I'll pay, he said he'll help me in the university route financially. He's not going to pay for everything, which I believe is good. He'll help me, or he'll use the same amount of money that he was going to point towards the university and point it towards mentors and going to the best of the best and going towards, getting training from the millionaire coaches that really can do something. And I was and he convinced me, and I was totally for going to straight to the mentors and straight to the, paying that money to get to the right. Like, for example, I was at Les Brown's speaker camp and his training, and that was part of almost like a college education in our sense. But I've had about a year to where I've been stuck and had a lot of time to decide and think, and we've been doing our best to kind of walk down the same, like right down the middle, where I'm doing community colleges classes on the side. I'm still working as a server, and I'm still doing, building my speeches and writing my book and going, to see the right speakers and stuff like that. But after a lot of time to think, 5 years from now, I soon want to go to university within maybe this year, and I want to get that degree out of the way, because that degree is opportunity. And I just finally accepted it, that I needed to do that anyway, and there's going to be experiences and things that I learned going to university that I'll be able to help impact it when I turn around afterwards and see the flaws in the system and the experiences and the stories that I'll be able to gather and the people that I'll be able to touch and that will touch me, and all the things that I feel like it's just so much in me that I'm supposed to do that. So I want to be able to go through university, and 5 years from now, get a business degree, but still be a speaker, and I want to start getting into investing, and I want to be an author. And so that's my 5-year plan right now. Just pretty narrow, hopefully,
Nice. So you said that you're a server. So I was recently thinking about servers have to cash out at the end of the night, correct? So I guess you go to your manager and whatever your receipts were, the receivables have to be the same. So do you kind of do that in your own life too? Do you kind of cash out at the end of the day or the end of the week to see, did I meet what I was supposed to do?
Every week I do my best. I'll write out my goals for this. I have a week to do these things that I need to cash out on, whether it be school stuff, and then obviously work. I don't even write that down because I just do it anyway. But there's certain goals that I need, like I need to edit 3 chapters of my book this week. I need to, make a YouTube video this week, and so at the, it's right. It's a daily thing. It's a weekly thing. But I do end up having to cash out, because if I don't, and I notice that when I don't do that, when I don't put that chart on my wall and I look at it every morning and I'm not checking things off, I really feel like I'm just spinning my wheels.
So I know that you've probably had some failures in your life. I think that we all do. So how do you feel about failures? What are your thoughts on failures?
Well, let's just say that the thoughts about failures have changed over the course of the last couple of years. When I first failed, so to speak, it was after I had won the competition, and I was flying back from Orlando, Florida, which is where it was held, and I had the first place trophy in my hand, and I won $200 just because, and I was like, oh, I'm on top of the world. I got my cowboy hat and on the plane, like I was fearless, and I ended up going back home and back to doing dishes and picking up dog poop, and I was like, oh great, I hit rock bottom again, It's like, wow, I was on top of the world and now I'm back. And then I ended up getting a phone call within the week, and it was from this couple in Dallas, Texas, and I'm in Austin, Texas. And they said, we saw you at AMTC, we really liked you. AMTC is a talent competition, and we really liked you. We're having a 50th anniversary at our it's like an anniversary reunion at our ranch in Dallas, Texas. There's going to be about 200 people, and we'd love for you to come. We'll pay your way, and we'll give you $350. And I was like, whoa, 3 digits, that was a big deal. And so I took it, and so my grandpa drove me, and I was practicing my whole 12 minutes of jokes all the way there, and my grandpa was hearing them over and over, and it was like, it was a big deal. And when I got there, when I showed up, it wasn't like 200 people I thought. It was 200 elderly people with canes and wheelchairs and hearing aids, and I don't know if they were all there. I don't know how they just looked confused, and it was just 50th year anniversary, and so I was like, okay, they'll get the George Bush jokes, and I went up there and I started my routine, and after the first 2 jokes, I realized that maybe they couldn't hear me or they don't like me. And so I was just getting like these dead, no responses. And so 12 minutes of material got cut down to 4. And I felt like and I ended up walking off the stage after, one joke that barely got a laugh. And I was like, all right, well, thank you very much. And I walked off, and I felt so bad. I felt like I failed the the people that brought me in, and they still paid me and everything. I didn't even want the money. I was like, just take it. It's dirty money. I didn't, and I ended up taking it out on the way home. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, maybe that talent competition was just a fluke, or it was just a whole different world than the real world. And that was my first encounter with, let's say, a failure, so to speak, in the speaking industry. And I've had many beforehand in the basketball court, but in the speaking industry, that was my first failure. And I didn't like it, and I couldn't stand it, and it really stung, and it halted me for about like 4 or 5 months. And I didn't want to do my George Bush impression for anybody. And finally, I got the courage. My friend and I were at work, and he started talking about George Bush, and I was like, okay. And I started doing an impression. I was like, hey, you want to hear an impression? He goes, yeah, go ahead. And I did it. And I don't know what I said, basically. I was like, I don't know much about Obamacare except that Obama doesn't care. And he's like, well, that was good. And so he started really motivating me and encouraging me. And I ended up going into my school, and I said, hey, I do George Bush impression, and they filmed me at school, and I got to do a broadcast to the entire high school as the president about going to the cafeteria and voting. And so that brought me out again. And it was all because, that failure halted me, and it really did. And even though my parents wouldn't say it's a failure, they couldn't hear you, and I took it personal. So they just didn't like me, and it really, really cut me. And so after I got on my feet again, and I started speaking across the country with Eric Swanson and his Universal Seminars, I had 2 or 3 speeches that went absolutely well, and it's the same speech. And then I went to like LA, did the same speech, and it was just like not the same, and not the same response, and I got dead, laughs. And after I got out of that speech and was still happy and poised, and it didn't bother me like it's just somebody out here that needed to hear me. It's not about the laughs. It's about giving people an opportunity to laugh, and if they don't take it, okay, it's just whatever. And I didn't take it personal, and after that I felt like I had finally overcome that first step of that failure, about that not taking anything personal and not getting offended when it doesn't go your way. And it took about that was a 1.5 year journey just to learn that, and I know I have so many more to go, and it's going to take forever to get stronger in that area. But sometimes you win, and sometimes you learn, and that's just how I really feel. And I did not like failure, and it still stings, but it's necessary. And so that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I can't believe nobody laughed. They must have not really. They didn't hear you.
I'm telling you, I was like, oh, they didn't hear me at all. I'm telling you, the microphone went out. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just certain things. One day I'm getting a standing ovation, and I do the same speech, and the next is just not the same. And so I realized, I was like, you know what? When somebody puts a movie out in a movie industry, at a movie theater, they don't change the movie based upon the audience. The movie is the movie, no matter where you go. And one time I was sitting in a theater, and I watched a movie, and everyone was on their feet laughing and cracking up. And then I went and saw it the next week at the same theater, and no one was laughing. And I was like, it's the same movie, and I was like, wait a minute, so they can't change the movie based upon the audience. They just need to do the movie themselves, and they're going to have certain people that love it and certain people that don't like it. And after I saw that, I was like, well, that's what it is with my speech. I can't keep changing my speech based upon how I want to fit with the audience, so to speak, and get them to laugh this way or this way. I just need to stick with what's been working. And so that was a revelation for me, and I was like, okay, I can't keep changing my speech because I didn't get a laugh here or there, Yeah. So that was a learning lesson.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay. So what do you recommend? Hold on. So what do you recommend for people that are listening to help them to face their challenges and their fears? Wait, did I lose you? Hold on.
No, I hear you. It's just really loud. I don't know if it was like...
Oh, it's funny because I couldn't hear you at all. Okay. Are you
How about
there?
now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. You there?
All right, so here we go.
Wait, what's happening?
We can edit this out, right?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
So, facing challenges, and obviously this is coming from a 19-year-old perspective, and still have a lot to learn and everything. But so far, I feel like when it comes to anytime you're facing hard times, or it's just raining on you and nothing's going your way, and I almost got it told last week by I was serving a customer, and he started telling me, he said, basically, life is like a game of golf, and I hadn't heard this before. Maybe viewers have, but life is like a game of golf. Sometimes you're, driving. Sometimes you're in the fairway. Sometimes you're in the sand. Sometimes you're on the green putting. But you can't get so caught up in that one hole because it's a long 4.5-hour game. There's 18 holes, but if you get so caught up in thinking that this hole is it and it has to be perfect and not going my way, there's still other opportunities. There's still more holes, and it just to step back and recognize that it's so temporary. And it's like anytime something frustrating me or I'm getting angry, I'll think about, in a month from now, am I still going to be upset about this? In a week from now, am I still going to be really bothered by this? And it's just a matter of perspective. And when I started to recognize that, life has so many twists and turns, but if you recognize that you can be plugged in like a GPS, like you have a destination you're supposed to be at, yet you still make wrong turns. You're gonna go down some bumpy roads. But if you're still plugged into that GPS and you know what it is you want, that it'll never abandon you, and that dream will never leave you. But you can keep making the wrong turns, and it can get frustrating, it can get rougher, and you can suffer consequences because of those wrong decisions. But it'll never abandon you. There's still a connection to what we're supposed to do. And I think the biggest thing that will help overcome those obstacles and those rough times is investing in your mind and investing in who you are. And sometimes we can get caught up so much in pleasing other people and trying to make everyone else happy that we're not even happy ourselves. And that's a problem I see with a lot of, especially like mothers that I see. They always want to make their kids happy, or they always want to make all their friends happy, but they're not happy themselves. And like Ona Brown said, every time you inhale, you got to exhale. Every time you exhale, you got to inhale, and it's an even thing. So investing in your mind, investing in reading books, and that are really encouraging and positive, and that'll keep you afloat and ahead of your game, and continually being creative. And that's all I can give as a 19-year-old perspective, though. But it's just one hole in this big game. It's just step back and realize that it's not forever. Pain is temporary. So
I love that.
There you go.
I love the golf analogy too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so tell people, well, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this. I want to thank you for being you, because the world is definitely a better place because you're in it. And I look so forward to seeing where you go in the future, and I will be proud to say, we sat at the same table at the event.
That's right.
And he did a George Bush impression, for our group. And yeah, so I'm really excited about your future for you. And I just wanted to thank you, and I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with you. Do you have a website or?
I do, and it's obviously we're building the website. I have the URL, and it'll take you straight to my YouTube page. Okay. And we're in the process of building a website right now. I went ahead and down to Austin, Texas, and just took pictures of me in a suit and a cowboy hat and everything like that in front of the Capitol building. And we're going to have a website up and a blog, and I'll be putting my book posts up as time goes on. But right now it'll be www.justinrenner, RENNER, same way backwards, I just learned that last week, .com, and that'll take you to my YouTube page, and eventually, as once we get the website set up, that'll be automatically forwarded to the website. And then Facebook, Justin Renner, same way, spelled and everything. But yeah, I'll be getting a Twitter up real soon once I start, getting with some more marketing people and, internet marketing world and how to get that out. But I'm focusing on my website right now. So that's how you can get in contact me or email me as well. I love emails. And that'll be justin@justinrenner.com. So okay. That's it right there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for what you do, for making people laugh and smile and keeping them motivated. And keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate it.
I really will. Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a good one.
You too. See you later. Bye-bye.